Hey, in this video I'm going to talk about essentially the basics of meditation that they would teach in a kind of like the Buddhist understanding of how to like kind of purify your mind and improve your understanding of the world. And it's actually my second time recording this video. So, so very nice people walked by with their dog, and I got a little distracted. So I'll yeah. So basically, what I'm going to talk about is the two main types of meditation that they do, which are vipassana and shamatha or samatha, and the yeah the mm, yeah. I'll just get right into it. So vipassana is the common translation of it is insight. So people call it like the insight practice. But the kind of like the etymology of it is, at least by my understanding, is like the vi part of it is nothingness or like emptiness, and the asana is if you've heard of yoga asanas or like the postures that you do, and it essentially means like the like sitting with nothingness or like being in the posture of emptiness, that type of thing, where you essentially are using a certain method to deconstruct your experience and basically like kind of like eliminate the noise that you experience. Like if you like look around, and this is one of the reasons you do meditation with your eyes closed, because if you look around at the world around you, there's like so much going on, and you hear so much, and you feel so much, that you if you want to do like a practice of purifying your mind, you kind of need to like reduce the clutter, reduce the chaos that you experience, and that's essentially the beginning of vipassana, where you start by basically just saying like the things around me are impermanent, and they're not going to last very long, so I'll just like kind of let go of them and wait for them to pass away, and that type of thing. And as you progress with it, you get to like deeper and deeper states of essentially like emptiness and quietness of your mind, until you essentially are only feeling things that are within your own mind or within your own body. And then even deeper than that, you reach a state where you basically experience nothing. And essentially the kind of one way of describing the end goal of Buddhism is to have like a temporary experience of nothing at all. And it's like the nothingness beyond nothingness even, which you need more than just vipassana to get there, obviously. That's why there's two types of meditation, obviously. The vipassana alone isn't quite powerful enough to do that, because what vipassana does is basically use what you have, like use your understanding, use your concentration to deconstruct the world of your own experience, obviously. But alongside that, there's another practice which is kind of fits more into like the proper like concentration practice, which the word is samatha, which I hear called shamatha, which I think is maybe I think it's the Sanskrit, where samatha is Pali, which Pali is like the traditional Buddhist language. That's not important. And the samatha practice it's translated as tranquility, but you can also think of it as just like pure concentration practice, where you're essentially doing nothing. You're like not thinking too much about it. You're not trying to like piece things together or take things apart. You're basically just like focusing your mind. And in old like traditional Buddhism, they would do this with something called kasinas, and yeah, tangent. There's something called the fire kasina, which I think has gained some popularity these days, where you basically have a candle in front of you and you stare at the candle, and the if you've ever done that type of thing, you see when you close your eyes, there's like an after image, and it's kind of like a reddish purple, and you essentially stare at the after image like behind your closed eyes, and you stare at it for like an hour, or like in the traditional Buddhism, the monks would do it for like many hours, like days and days and hours, and over time it essentially they're just like staring at this image in your mind, because it's really an image in your mind, even though it looks like it's an image in your eyes. But just staring at this image in your mind, you build your concentration to the point where your mind doesn't try to wander anymore, and it's not like there's no mental chatter and there's no like thoughts of what you're going to do next. It's just like pure laser focus, and that's really like the I would say the end goal, but like that's like the mature yeah, I guess like the mature samatha practice is like your mind is super still and super concentrated. But the way it would look for like a more modern kind of traditional person who is going to meditate a few minutes a day, maybe like an hour a day at most, I think the common way to do it is to use the concentration on your breath. Because by concentrating on your breath, you don't need like a external object or like a complex understanding of something. You basically just like breathe, you like sit down, close your eyes and breathe, and you just focus on the rising and falling of your abdomen. Or a common one is you focus on the area like above your lip and feel like air moving along it. And there's a bunch of different ways. Even within breath meditation, there's at least 3 or 4 that I know of just like how to watch your breath. But in some ways it is very simple, of just like you just watch your breath and you let your mind wander and you let your mind gradually stop wandering. And as it stops wanting to wander, it starts just focusing on your breath. You'll find that your body, it's like your mind gets very still and you get very relaxed. And over time, your body starts to feel very pleasant. And this is kind of this is getting away from the basic description of these things, because the what I'm going to talk about next is the meditative states that you can reach. And just like the base practice of Vipassana and Samatha can be done, it can be done pretty intuitively. Like you don't need to know too much about it. You basically just like sit there and however you think the world works, you just like use that way of understanding the world and like deconstruct things, focus on your breath, focus on your object of meditation. And then when you get distracted, use Vipassana again to like slowly declutter your mind and bring it back to concentration. And this can be done hundreds of ways, but one of, it can be done hundreds of ways and it has hundreds of different results. Like if you're doing this as a therapy practice, that is pretty much all you need. Like you just want a little like peace of mind, maybe to like work through a trauma or work through like a anxiety or depression. And that is kind of like, that is the kind of like the strength that you need to get through those sorts of things. But when you want to do the work of like reaching enlightenment, or like reaching like the beginning stages of enlightenment, you have to get to like the kind of the next level of things where you start dropping into the meditative states. And the meditative states, that's kind of what I'm calling them. The word in Buddhism for them is the jhanas. And I should actually be careful, because Vipassana, the Vipassana practice doesn't, it helps you achieve jhanas, but it's not specifically about them. It's more, if you do like just pure Vipassana, you reach a state of kind of just like clarity of mind and emptiness of mind, which isn't actually the meditative states that I'm going to talk about. It's more of it's more its own thing and kind of a companion to the traditional states. But when you kind of favor the samatha practice, you're able to essentially find these it almost feels like a region of your mind that is very very like organized and very I guess simplified in a way, which simplified sounds like it's kind of like a lower state, which on some level it actually is. Like the meditative state is falling into a type of trance or a type of like simplification of your experience, which kind of alongside, it's like the simplification of your experience leads to a complexification of the content of the experience. So it's like the first like there's eight, depending on the tradition. There's 8 or 9 of these meditative states you can get into, and kind of the first one of them is called the first jhana, is a state where your body is filled with um, basically just like a pleasurable light. It's like your body's like glowing kind of, and your mind is um, kind of like starts focusing on its own, and you feel like you don't need to try to focus; it just kind of focuses. And this state comes with like a simplification of like it's like almost like you can count, you can like count the things that are happening. Like it's the jhana factors is what they talk about, where it's like there's 5 or 6 factors, and those factors are like clearly discernible. Like my experience includes these 6 things and not very much else. But the little bit of thing that is happening that isn't those 5 factors becomes extremely complex. And this might be hard to kind of understand, but you can think of it as like, um, yeah, it's like if the normal mental state is like a page of text in a book, there's like a bunch of different words going on, and there's like 100 different things you could read and think about and analyze. But when you get into the jhana state, it's like a page with a single word on it, and like a beautiful mandala, like a circular drawing around it. Whereas like there's very little happening, but the things that are happening are very significant, and you gain a very deep understanding of them. So like getting back to like the really traditional Buddhism, where they would do the kasina practices, like they would stare at a flame or stare at like a clay disc. You essentially get, when you get into this meditative state using one of those objects, you gain like a very deep understanding of whatever that is. So like the one they talk about more is the earth kasina, which uses like a clay disc that you just make a disc out of clay and stare at it. But when you do the practice very deeply, you gain insights about earth, about like the element of earth, which, from a scientific perspective, earth isn't an element. It's not one of the periodic table of elements or whatever. But in a very real way, there is like a concept of earth, like of solidity, of like resistance to motion. And those things become extremely vivid in the jhana state. And you essentially, like, you, yeah, like the best way to describe it almost is you're like enraptured by it. Like you're in a state of like, I'm not going to imitate it because it'd be too silly, but like, if you've ever seen somebody who feels like a miracle has happened, like their son was like dying, and the doctor comes and like saves their son. It's like that type of feeling of like, it's like the best thing that has ever happened, and like that, like I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's basically like the jhana state is like you're staring at that clay disc, and it feels like that clay disc is like the best thing ever. Like that clay is like the thing that you've been waiting for your whole life. It's that type of thing. And it sounds a little ridiculous, but when you've experienced this, you realize how true it is and how powerful it is. Because it's like the temporary experience of that in a very limited scope gives you like a super, super strong focus on something. And it allows you to basically set aside everything else and just like stare at this one thing. And through doing that, your concentration of mind and your like, what they call single pointedness, your mind is like single pointed on this thing. And from there, you can do like the Vipassana practice or do basically just like anything else with your mind. And you suddenly realize like your mind has become like 100 times stronger. Like I don't know this for sure, but I kind of infer that like if you're doing math or doing like a scientific practice, science is a practice, I guess, it's a study or something. If you're like studying and you like sharpen your mind to the state and then go back to start studying, I'm sure it would make you like surprisingly smart. Like you'd be able to just like, I don't know, even like see the numbers moving around in your head, or like you just understand like, oh, this, I don't know if you're doing like physics, like dynamics or something, you would see like, oh, like the solidity of this this object interacting with the solidity of the other object forms this physical relationship, and it would become so vivid and so like clearly true or clearly important. It's just a I don't know. It's like a very yeah. I'm getting like hyped up thinking about this. There's so much potential with it because it really just forms your mind into like a very sharpened tool. But obviously, it comes with downsides, which I any conversation about meditation needs to address a little bit of the downsides of it, because I'm talking about how great it is to I don't know, care about nothing except for a single thing. But that like concept alone obviously brings in the issue of like, if you care too much about one thing, you lose perspective, and you stop realizing that there's more to life than, you know, staring at this one thing, or like there's more to life. This is a very important thing. There's more to life than meditation. And people who meditate a lot can get really caught up in it and can forget that the real world is also out there, you know. and yeah, that's just kind of like the what people call like the shadow side of meditation, where meditation is extremely powerful and can unearth a lot of dark things in your mind, and also runs the risk of alienating you from other people who don't meditate. And so that's really why it's important. Kind of getting back to the original, like what I was starting this video talking about, is that the Vipassana practice and the Shamatha practice need to be balanced in a lot of ways. And Vipassana can be done, like the way it's usually talked about is within a Buddhist practice, where you're using like the Buddhist understanding of the world to do Vipassana. But really, like the way to kind of like cool your mind down from the really intense meditative experiences is to do like kind of Vipassana based on like the worldly understanding of things. And by worldly, I mean like the culture that you're from. Like if you, I don't know, like my experience with this type of thing is like, my parents think that like getting a job is important. Or they think that, you know, I don't know, just like very basic things of like you have to eat certain food, or you have to like think about things certain ways. And inevitably, if you're studying a religion or studying like a system of meditation, it's going to differ from that a lot. And you can't use the meditative system to understand like other people and the culture that they're from, or the traditions that they have. So you really need to like the real complete meditation practice includes things that seem unrelated to meditation. And so to kind of bring this video to a close, there's very deep, very deep states of meditation you can get to, which are like blissful and feel like the best thing you've ever experienced. But the reality that we live in is that no matter how strong of a meditative state you're in, no matter how good you get at meditation, you still have to, you know, interact with your family and interact with people who have never heard of meditation. And so you kind of have to accept that like the pursuit of enlightenment may feel like the most important thing ever. And in a lot of ways, like on a very spiritual level, it is a very important thing. But just as important as that like heavenly enlightenment is like the integration of these things into the world. Because like this comes to mind a quote, I think it was Ram Dass said this quote, is that like if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family and you'll realize how little you've progressed. Because like meditation is a very powerful tool, and you can use it for so many things, but at the end of the day, it doesn't solve everything. Just take my word for it. Yeah. But yeah, so I'll just give a quick summary of what I'm talking about. So Vipassana is, the two types of meditation are Vipassana and Samatha, which are insight practice and tranquility practice, or a concentration practice. And the process of vipassana is essentially using some model of the world or some understanding that you can then kind of frame your experience in terms of that understanding and use that as like a cyclical process where you experience something and you reframe that experience and then you experience more things. And it allows you to kind of declutter your mind and essentially give you, like, make your mind feel more spacious and more free. And in a lot of ways, it lets you kind of deepen your experience and go deeper into your own, like, physical body or your own mind. And oh, actually, something I forgot to mention. If you've been to a Vipassana retreat with S.N. Goenka, who I respect in a lot of ways, it is very important to say that the Vipassana that he teaches is not Vipassana. It's like it is a type of Vipassana, but it's based on his tradition and not like the original Buddha Vipassana sort of stuff. Just, yeah, feel obligated to mention that. But yeah, the Vipassana practice kind of clears your mind and gives you a better understanding of things, whereas the tranquility practice is for really sharpening your mind and essentially like removing its tendency to wander and its tendency to get distracted by things. And on a very like intense level, if you do this for hours and hours, you can get into meditative states called the jhanas, which I'll make a video about jhanas at some point because they are very interesting. There's so much to them, but what they basically entail is a simplification of your experience where your entire mind is focused on a single point. And because of that simplification, it makes your mind very pure and very, like puts you in a very pleasurable state where you feel like it's just like a great celebration or a great, like, warmth, and like it feels like the universe is caring for you and that type of thing. And really the full meditation practice is doing a combination of these two things where you sharpen your mind through tranquility and you use that sharp mind to understand your experience and deconstruct things and get the further insights. And those further insights allow you to do the tranquility practice more effectively. And yeah, this and it pretty much summarizes the basic meditation practice in Buddhism. But it does is important, I think, to understand that this is Buddhism that I'm talking about. It's not like it sounds in a lot of ways, or it is in a lot of ways like a complete practice where you don't like if you were trying to get the results of Buddhism, all you really need are these two things. Like you do Vipassana and do Samatha, and you can get basically all the insights they talk about, all the concentration, all the, I don't know, you can reach enlightenment essentially. But what I'm talking about in these videos isn't really like a guide to enlightenment or something, because that's just not something I'm qualified to do, or even something I think is like possible to do in at least in a video format. But I'm doing these as a method of incorporating a lot of different spiritual practices and kind of letting, like, if somebody knows about Buddhism and doesn't know about these other things, or like if they know about shamanism and don't know about Buddhism, I want to be able to kind of bridge the gap between the different types of spirituality. And I think this talking about meditation in this way is one of the ways to kind of kind of like start that process of just like laying out what the Buddhist people are doing and how they get their results, and then from there showing that like the results they get are similar to the results other people get, and the methods they use are in a lot of ways unique to their tradition, but in other ways are very similar to what other traditions and what other kind of like spiritual communities do. And yeah, that pretty much sums up what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm trying to think of it's funny, recording the, I think I recorded like a 30-minute video already, and then recording this again, I feel very tired and very, feel like I'm leaving things out. Yeah. I think I'll leave, there's something I'll mention that, the, one of the things about the meditative states you can get into, like the jhanas, is that they kind of bring you into a yeah, actually this is better for another video. It's gonna sound too arcane if I talk about it right away, but kind of what I was gonna talk about is that like the jhanas bring you into contact with like a certain part of your mind that is a similar part of your mind that you contact through shamanism, and it's kind of like about like the spirit animals and the vision journeys that shamanism talks about, and how those are kind of a different form. They're kind of like a more terrestrial form of jhanas, and that might not be clear at first, but I'll make a video about it soon where where I kind of outline the ways in which they correspond to each other. But yeah, I think that's it for this video, more or less. Yeah. No, I keep saying I'm gonna end the video, but I have more things to say. I'm doing this this kind of thing at the end of the videos where I just kind of like talk about what's on my mind, and I think this really is like a important part of the videos in a lot of ways, because I can tell that I get a little serious when I'm talking about these like theoretical things, or these like doctrines of practice and things like that, which I think the serious character or whatever is very useful for it. But I think it's good to kind of like relax at the end of the video and be like, oh yeah, I'm also a person who's just kind of learning these things, making my way through the spiritual practices. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit about my plans for the future. I really want to get to the point where I'm talking about multiple topics in a video. Like, just now I was talking about Buddhism and shamanism, and I think I want to make a video that's like a topic, and then it's Buddhism plus shamanism, instead of just Buddhism or just shamanism. And I think I'm undecided if I want to like go ahead and do that, or if I want to take more time to like kind of lay the groundwork and get better at talking about these things before I start mixing them together. Because I think there is a certain focus that you get from just talking about a single topic, and like getting good at talking about Buddhism is its own thing. Because I understand Buddhism pretty well, as well as I think I do, at least. Other people probably don't think I do, but I understand Buddhism within my own head, but talking about Buddhism is completely its own thing. So I'm leaning towards taking my time and maybe like five or so more videos down the line, starting to mix them. But I might just go ahead and make one mixture video and just see how it turns out. See if it gets a little too surface level. I think it is. Like, I want to avoid getting a kind of like wishy-washy almost, like just kind of like talking on the surface level without getting into like the deep like examples and the deep like this is what happens when you do this practice. Because I think those are like the real core of the video is like I'm talking about this thing, but what happens when this thing actually like takes form, like when you actually do this thing. So yeah, we'll see what I do next. For all I know, that the next video will be two different things. But yeah, for now I'll see you around. And yeah, thank you for watching. Right. If you liked this video, click the like button and subscribe to my channel. so someone reminded me that that's an important thing for YouTube, but it feels very silly to say that. Yeah. Oh well. See you around. Peace.